Hello, hello, hello. Hello, good morning, hello. Um, just going over some slides today, explaining a little bit about what you have to do for your assignment. It's already in the slides as usual at the end. So it's pretty self explanatory. Before I begin, more of the same, I'm fine. I'm just counting this as sort of like I'm recording these lessons for you to watch at your leisure because usually only a few people pop on live, and that's fine with me, like I've been saying. Make sure you're signing the attendance. There is a special meeting today that you should have gotten notice from. I'm sure it's in that Google Classroom that Mr. Reyes made you sign up for the daily attendance and stuff. So make sure you check that out. It's with Mr. Leon, Superintendent Leon. I think it's at like 1 o'clock or something like that. So you guys have to go. I think it's for all seniors. So I guess it's a pretty important meeting. So check that out. What else? So I broke it up a little bit by instead of just doing slides every time until we get to a quiz, I'm going to do slides and give you a little assignment at the end of the slides, like I've been doing. Then I'm going to break it up the next time with an Ed puzzle, which you did the first time. Many of you are familiar with Ed puzzle. I know a bunch of teachers that use them. I know Randolph uses them. I know Bradshaw uses them. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen Ed puzzle around. If you haven't, I linked a tutorial video on that first Ed puzzle I gave you. I just think they're really cool. I think it's cool to post a video and then to have you able to be able to answer questions along the way. I also will grade them, put them in as a quiz. So those are just mini quizzes after each slide presentation that I give you. Other than that, I don't have anything really new. If you're having problems with the Ed puzzle, there were a couple people, two or three. Soph, can you please shut that door? Thank you. I'm hiding in the bedroom because homeschooling downstairs is chaos. Anyway, with Ed puzzle, there were a couple students that had some issues with Ed puzzle. They were locked or something. I looked around and I asked some teachers that have been using it, and apparently that's a you thing. Good morning. That's a you thing, not a me thing. So if you can't get into Ed puzzle for some reason, there's a couple quick things just to check. Make sure you're signed into your school account. Make sure you're on make sure it's not locked. Make sure you're truly signed in. You know how sometimes you think you're signed in and you're not, and you got to go to cnn.com, stuff like that. So make sure that you're truly signed in, and it shouldn't be a problem. All right. Make sure you're always signing in with Google to your Ed puzzle, and that should be good. All right, going on to the slides today. So I posted some slides before. It is lesson 9. We're still in agriculture. We switched to forests and old growth forests and stuff like that. We're going to talk about how forests are managed, forest management. It's important to manage forests because a lot of animals depend on it, because a lot of people and a lot of species of plants depend on that. So we'll see how we manage forests. These slides are a bunch of, they're really just a bunch of definitions written out in a long way. So I'll break them down a little bit. I'm going to ask that Miss Davis has been doing vocabulary words, so maybe Miss Davis can post her vocabulary to the whole class this time instead of just a few here and there. So that will probably be very, very helpful. So that would be cool because it is. You'll see. There's just a lot of definitions to look at on this one. So not too many, but all the slides are definitions. All right. So we're looking at how forests are managed. Slide 1. When I move to slide 2 is obviously the agenda, which you can look at your leisure. Slide 3 is the objective. The objective for the day is to describe what is meant by forest management and to recognize the role played by national forests in land usage. Right? Okay. So, slide 4. Forest management involves carefully applied harvesting of trees with their replacement in mind rather than allowing any type of lumbering. All right. So, what this means is we're thinking about forest management deals with thinking about what we're cutting down. We have to harvest trees. We have to make sure that we have replacement of those trees in mind, right? Instead of just lumbering. And lumbering is, hey, let's get a big company, let's get in here with all our machines and boom, cut down the whole forest and sell our wood, right? That's not what forest management is about. That's not very good management. So what you should be doing, or what we should be doing is yes, we need lumber. I mean, we have to cut down trees for lumber because we use lumber as a main source of our Um, as our construction in this country, it's used for heat in other countries and cooking. So we need it, but we can do it responsibly. And that's what this whole course is really about, right? So forest management is all about doing this responsibly by getting wood that we need and cutting down trees, but doing it in a very responsible manner. So that's what forest management is. Slide 5. All right, slide 5 is sort of gets into where we start the definitions here. Now, there's a lot of different ways to manage forests. And again, the reason why we have to manage these forests is because we need wood, we need to cut down trees, we need to clear out space, we need the lumber for construction, we need to make sure that the canopy, which I mentioned, I think last time we talked, the canopy, which is the top of the trees and the branches and the leaves, we have to make sure that the canopy isn't being too expansive to the point where no sunlight is reaching the ground, because, like I mentioned in the last lecture, that could be a big problem. So we have to manage forests. Nature manages forests in a way, right? And that would be with fires, right? And we also, you probably know, and I think we may have mentioned this earlier in the year, but we also control fires. We have controlled fires, right? And that burns down a certain area of the forest. But we're not getting into the fire thing today. We're getting into other ways we manage the forest. The forest fire is the next set of slides. It has its own sort of space. So we're not going to get into that. So you might be thinking, oh, well, we can clear forests. Don't we burn them? Yeah, we do, but we're going to talk about that next time. All right, so here's some other ways that forests are managed. Clear cutting. So clear cutting can be used to mimic a natural fire. So like I just mentioned, right? When you have a fire, it sort of clears everything out. Well, clear cutting is the way we do that to mimic it, all right? And it says all the trees in a small area are removed to create an open area that quickly sprouts grasses and forage for animals. Since redwoods grow best in open sunlight and sprout from their own slumps, we'll talk about that when we talk about fires. It's an ecologically friendly way to manage redwoods and numerous forests like the redwood forests. Okay, so you can clear cut, which means, all right, we're in a forest. We are going to take these 4 acres, 5 acres, and we're going to cut everything down. Cut everything down. Clear cut, right? That's easy to understand. And then what we're going to do is let nature take its course, like we talked about how forests succeed last time we talked. Um, so we're going to let it happen, and pretty soon grasses will sprout and things like that, and that creates new growth, that creates stuff, forage for animals, and things like that. This is also one of the ways that people farmed when they didn't have enough space. They would clear cut and they would use that soil for farming. But they do this in redwoods, right? Because we use the redwood forest, we use a lot of those trees for lumber. So think lumber instead of food and animals. We can clear cut. We could use all of that lumber or most of it, and then it grows back. It could be done in a decent way. So the next thing on slide 5 is called seed tree harvesting. And seed tree harvesting is kind of like a clear cut, except that a few healthy trees are left standing to naturally reseed the area. So instead of just letting grasses grow and shrubs grow, if you clear cut, but you leave like 2 or 3 trees in this huge area, and those trees, they naturally seed the area, and then you have natural seeding, so you don't have to reseed yourself. So if you want to make more redwood trees in that area that you clear cutted, you have to clear cut, you have to reseed it, right? But if you leave a few trees in various places, a lot of that seeding will happen naturally. So that's what seed tree harvesting is. So clear cutting everything, seed tree harvesting, couple trees, right? A couple healthy trees left to do their thing naturally and help reseed the area. Slide 6, couple more. Slide 6 is shelter wood harvesting. Shelter wood harvesting leaves enough trees standing to provide protection and shade for delicate new seedlings planted on the site. When the young trees have grown, the older trees are removed. All right. So what you have here is sort of a not really a recycling thing, but you have enough trees standing to provide protection. So instead of just leaving a couple of trees on in the space, you have wherever you seed, again, clear cut, letting the grasses and the shrubs and the foliage grow, and you're reseeding to plant more trees in that area. Um, with shelter wood harvesting, you're not just leaving a couple trees random, you're leaving trees in a group so those trees can still grow. So you have a huge clear cut area, and then you have a bunch of areas that have their trees still on it. So imagine like little pockets of trees, right? You have a big clear cut area, but there's still little pockets of trees where in the last one there was one tree here, one tree there, one tree here. So shelter wood, and that's what it does, it shelters the seedlings below it. So if you have a group of trees growing together, they're creating a lot of shade, and that shade is beneficial for some of the delicate new seedlings. They won't be as exposed to rain and weather, but they'll still get sun, and they'll also get the shade they need and stay cool. So shelter wood harvesting is a way to sort of keep a group of trees there for shade. So think about that. Shelter. All these words give it away. So shelter wood is how we keep trees there to provide shelter for new seedlings. And then there's something called group selection. Group selection is selectively cutting, or selective cutting removes individual trees in a cycle. So this almost start thinking about recycle. Large trees are cut, smaller trees are left standing, right, to reseed the area. And then when the smaller trees have grown large enough, they're cut. And then there's smaller trees behind that. And when those get bigger, they get cut, and there's always smaller trees coming behind that. So there is this flow, right? This steady flow of, okay, we're going into this section. We're not clear cutting. We're not cutting everything and leaving a couple trees. We're not clear cutting and leaving little groups of trees. We're selective, right? We're selecting a group of trees. We're selecting the old big trees that are good for lumber. This is a good way to do it because you get more lumber out of big trees. You don't get a lot of lumber out of small trees. So when you clear cut, yes, you're getting all the big trees for lumber, for construction, but when you clear cut, you're also getting all the small trees that are useless. So you're sort of wasting when you do that. With this group selection, you're just waiting, right? This is like a Christmas tree farm. This is what I think of when I look at group selection. If you ever go to a Christmas tree farm, you will see Christmas trees growing in various stages, right? You'll see the big ones. There's a section over here with big ones, and these are ready to go for this Christmas. And then you'll look around the farm and you'll see ones at this height, you'll see ones at this height, and you'll see little babies, and you'll even see probably a clearing that has nothing, but there's actually seeds there. They just haven't sprouted. So they always have them in various stages. So every year they have mature trees to cut down and sell. That's kind of what you got going on here, right? It's not an every year thing for this like it is for a Christmas tree farm, but group selection allows you to be taking the good wood that's old and letting the other ones grow up to maturity, right? And letting the other ones grow up to maturity. And it's sort of a recycling thing. All right. Slide 7. I think this is the last one. Slide 7 is something called single tree selection. This is strategically moving individual trees of different sizes, and it helps maintains diversity. The harvesting technique is used mainly in watercourse and lake protection zones and areas with special considerations such as protected wildlife habitats and parks. All right, so single tree selection is just there's a park by my house, and we went hiking once, and my son said to me, he's like, why is that tree like that? And the tree had like a symbol on it, like a spray painted mark. It wasn't there's trail markers when you go hiking, and it shows you that, oh, follow the yellow signs because that's the yellow trail. That's not what this was. This was some sort of X, and it was low on the tree. Um, and at first I wasn't sure. And then we saw another one, and we saw another. We started looking at the trees we were talking about, and they were kind of coming into the road. They were marked for removal. All right. So that's kind of like a single tree selection where they say, okay, let's look at this forest. That one's good for lumber. Let's take that one down. That one is really disrupting the ecosystem. Let's take that one down. They're literally singling out each tree and making a selection on whether it stays or it goes. All right. So that's the difference there. And this one's usually the heads up. I mean, again, self-explanatory. If a question asks you about something that has to do with selectively taking individual trees, it's this one. But this one's mostly used in places that have like lake protection zones, protected habitats. You can't go into a protected habitat. You can't go into a protected habitat and doggy found where I was hiding. Come here, Lex. Doggy found where I was hiding. It's a good boy. All right. Um, yes. Okay, you can lay down. You can lay down now. I mean, he's not going to lay down now. There we go. Good boy. Um, in zones where you can't go into a protected wildlife zone and clear cut. I mean, you killed wildlife. It's protected wildlife. You can't go into these zones and just say, okay, we're going to cut all these trees except for two. You can't do that. You're knocking out animals' niches and where they live and all that other stuff. So you can't do that. So you have to selective. You have to be very selective, and that's where single tree is used, right? And that's another thing. Even with all this clear cutting and with all this stuff, right? You're displacing wildlife when you cut down these trees. So part of forest management is understanding where the wildlife is going to go and what's happening, and making sure you're doing it in the right area. Where if you're going to clear cut these 2 acres, make sure that the place, all the surrounding area is still suitable for the things that will get displaced, the animals that will get displaced. So the squirrels still have a place to go, and so on, and the birds and all that stuff. So on and so forth, right? So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to happen with forest management. All right, slide 8. And there's something called the Forest Service, and that it was established in 1905. It is an agency, part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Again, we've been talking about agriculture, so forests fall into that. And that's what the Forest Service does. The Forest Service manages public lands in national forests and grasslands. Okay. Whoa. You okay, Lex? So the Forest Service manages public lands in national forests and grasslands. What that means is anything public, all public lands, state parks, and things like that. Grasslands, Midwest. And then this guy, Gifford Pinchot, he was the very first chief of the Forest Service in 1905. He has a quote. It's not super important to remember, but the quote is to provide the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people in the long run, right? So he was all about that word sustainability, doing things right so you can provide the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people over a very long period of time. And that's sort of an unselfish approach to taking care of the environment. All right, slide 9 is a map, and I'll let you expand that map and check it out and look at it. And so it says here that national forests and grasslands encompass 193 million acres of land. That is approximately the size of Texas. So in the United States, our national forests and grasslands are roughly the size of Texas, which is enormous. So that's why we have this agency to protect. And that's where you hear forest rangers and stuff like park rangers. That all falls under that forest management agency. All right. So I'll let you check out that map on your own to see where they are. But there's Appalachian Mountains and the forests that come down there. And then in the Pacific Northwest, I've already been talking about the redwood forests and stuff like that in California. All right. And slide 10 is what you are got going on, what you got to do. So slide 10, you are continuing to view that video. The last couple of times we've met, or we've done slides, you have been watching this Survivors of the Firestorm, and you've been watching little clips. So you are going to, the link is in the speaker notes, and you're going to watch this video. You're going to watch it from minute 16 to minute 36, because you should be up to minute 16. But the answers to today's stuff will be within 16 to 36 minutes. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the last slide and you're going to answer the questions. So you'll see on the side of slide 11, you'll see that there are 5 of those definitions that we just talked about: clear cutting, seed tree, shelter, wood, group selection, single tree selection. So those are relevant to the video that you're going to watch. And the question here says, which forest management strategy, which one of those 5 things there on the right, most mimics the natural regeneration for the trees shown in the video segment, and why, which you haven't seen yet, right? So in the video segment, you'll see them talking about eucalyptus trees. So that's when you're going to perk up and really listen. So eucalyptus trees, you're going to answer that question for eucalyptus trees, and you're going to answer that question for mountain ash trees, which are also in the video. Mhm. So that's what you got going on. That's the only thing. So it's a quick question. You can answer it right here in the speaker notes, and you can turn the slideshow in or whatever, and do it however you want and get it into me. Right. The next time we meet, just to, again to give you the heads up, the next time we meet, you will get an Ed puzzle. So I'll be going live for these things every other time now, and it's not because I don't want to do them. It's because they might start getting boring if it's just slides, and then what do we do at the end? So we're still doing slides and a little bit at the end on one day, and then the next day we see each other. We'll do an Ed puzzle, and then the next time we see each other, we'll do another set of slides with a little thing, and then we'll do another Ed puzzle, and eventually we'll get to another quiz, right? Which I'll let you know about beforehand. So grades are going to be mainly these Ed puzzle little quizzes I give you, and the quizzes that we've been taking after a bunch of slideshows, right? Like that. And there's also usually a unit test after a bunch of slideshows. And then I will let you know which things I'm grading in the slides themselves. But you should be doing it all because there are a lot of people checking. I can't say that all the time because, when we're in school, it sort of is what it is. There's not too many people checking up on every single assignment. But there's a lot of board administrators at home and they have a lot to do as well. But one of the things they are doing is they're going through these. They're checking in, they're popping in live, they're looking at everybody's stream, they're looking at all the student work to see if you're doing it or not. They're looking at the grade book daily. They are really keeping on top of this. And the main reason for that is because they care about you guys and they don't want anyone to put themselves in a position where they're struggling come June. This is a weird time. So they are on top of stuff. I literally have to go to a spreadsheet right now and start filling in the spreadsheet for my administrator that shows anyone that has not done work or is currently failing. And they're going to come get you. They're going to call you. They're going to do a bunch of stuff. So keep doing your work is what I'm trying to tell you, and everybody's going to be fine as long as you keep doing my little Ed puzzles and my little quizzes. You will be good to go. All right. Any questions? I'm here all day. Today's a very busy day. Today I have many classes, so I do them all in a row, and we also have a couple meetings. So I am here. I'm always here all day until 3:30 and after, and I will continue to be. So if you need me, just private message me. All right. Be safe.